I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, your home for deer hunting news, stories, and strategies. And now, your host, Mark Kenyon.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kenyon. This is episode number 179, and today we are joined by Tim Woods, a whitetail outfitter, a land specialist for Whitetail Properties, a blood tracking dog handler, and an all-around super serious deer hunter. And we're discussing the whitetail rut, advice for tracking wounded deer, and much more. All right, welcome to another episode of the Wired to Hunt podcast, brought to you by Sitka Gear. And today in the show, we are joined by Tim Woods. He's an outfitter for Huntmasters Lodge. He's a land specialist for Whitetail Properties. He's filmed in the past for Drury Outdoors and now Whitetail Edge, and he is just an all-around, very serious whitetail hunter. And today we're going to be catching up with Tim to discuss all things related to hunting the whitetail rut and tracking wounded deer, because he's got a couple, I believe, blood tracking dogs he takes all across his area, helping people recover deer. So I think he's going to have some interesting things to share on that front as well. But before all that, we need to take a few minutes here for our weekly pregame show with yours truly and Dan Johnson of the Nine Ginger Chronicles. So, how are you, man?
I wonder how many people are actually going to type the Nine Ginger Chronicles into a search here pretty soon.
I hope a lot. and I hope your face pops up.
I wouldn't doubt it if it does.
What's new, dude?
Well, dude, who cares? Wait, look, before, I don't want to talk about me right now. I want to talk about you. What's Holyfield? What's up?
All right, the Holyfield updates, short and bittersweet.
Yeah.
So my plan was to start hunting him on Tuesday the 24th.
Yeah.
Tuesday the 24th has huge cold front come through. Temperatures were like 20 degrees cooler than they were over the weekend, but had pretty heavy rains and heavy wind. So I spent the day debating whether or not I should still go out, and in the end I decided, you know what, I'm going to go for it, because I hope that wind's going to die down a little bit, and if the rain dies down a little bit, it could end up being really good. And I had what I thought was a safe place to hunt in his general area. So I headed in there, got up in the tree, and within like 20 minutes, I was like, you know what, this is way worse than the forecast said. The gusts were really, really strong. It had to be 20, 25 mile an hour gusts maybe. And I noticed that it was starting to get dangerously close to swirling towards a bad place. And I just sat there debating for like 20 minutes and just decided, you know, it is not worth screwing things up on a night like this for the future. So I pulled everything out and snuck back out and headed out for the night. So that was night number one. Didn't get to hunt at all, really.
Yeah.
Night number two was tonight. The winds were supposed to die down. Again, still nice and cool. So I headed in, and with the wind direction we had, the best spot I could hunt, the safest place I could hunt in this general area was my redneck box blind, this elevated box blind. So I thought, all right, I'm going to hunt that blind. So I sneak in there, I climb in, and as soon as I climb in, I hear something, and I look up at the ceiling, and all of a sudden I see there's bees all over the place inside of this blind. So I panic and I scurry out of that. And then I'm like, well, what in the heck am I going to do tonight? Because that was like the one place I thought I could safely hunt. And I had all my stuff with me for a box blind hunt. So I had a tripod for my camera. I didn't have a tree stand harness or anything. So I had to go all the way back to my house and swap out my gear, get all the stuff for a tree stand hunt, and then I had to wait like an hour and a half before the wind was supposed to shift a little bit, which I thought then would allow me to hunt one of my tree stands. The wind did sort of shift, so I snuck in there and just got in there late, got into one of my favorite stands, the stand that I've had these multiple shot opportunities at Holyfield for in the past. But long story short, I did not see him. Saw some does, saw a couple 1.5-year-old bucks, saw one 2.5-year-old buck that's been all over the place, and he chased some does out in the field. And that was it. It was a pretty uneventful night compared to what I was expecting, given how good the conditions were. So,
right,
kind of disappointing, but it is what it is.
It's disappointing on a macro level or a micro level, but on a macro level, like I have a feeling that all these little steps lead to something.
I agree. As long as I don't die. Oh man.
Is your next sponsor going to be like a cigarette company?
No, I'm the exact opposite. I'm drinking some warm apple cider. And it went down the wrong pipe. Wow, excuse me.
On this episode, we listened to Mark cough for 5 minutes.
All right. Hopefully that's it. But yes, to your point, hopefully this is just one step. Hopefully I didn't make too many mistakes. It was unfortunate that I had the issue yesterday and then tonight had to come in and out twice. But sometimes when things are going wrong, all of a sudden you get surprised with something going really right. So.
Absolutely.
I've got some wind directions that should allow me to hunt him at least again tomorrow, and then maybe later in the week or in the weekend. So I'll be keeping after him. Hopefully things pick up here soon. But yeah, what about you? Last time we talked, you were saying that you were going to kill that October lull buck to prove everybody wrong. Did you do it?
Well, I only got to hunt one day out of that whole quote unquote period, October lull period, but. Man, I was in the right spot. I'll tell you that. It just that and I think I told you this in a text message or an email. Think of a triangle, right, with a flat part on the bottom and the point that goes straight up.
Mm-hmm.
So the point on the top is a bedding area, okay, and then there's 2 trails that come out of this bedding area. Then they go down different parts of the ridge. And I was set up on the right-hand side, and we had what looked like a shooter go down the left-hand side, and then another buck that I couldn't tell what he was. Work his, all I saw was the tips of the antlers. I couldn't tell if it was mature, and he was kind of in some real tall CRP. Tons of does, and then last night, to get out of the wind, I went back to a stand that I set earlier in the year. And dude, again, money, does all over. Heard grunting in the woods, and it almost sounded like some light chasing, but I never did see the deer that was making that noise. And then as I'm just randomly glassing, I see some antlers pop up and down, and all I could see was the face of this buck and parts of his antlers, but not the whole head at one time. So and I couldn't hardly see the body at all because he was in some really thick stuff, but the face looked really, really old. He was about 80 yards away, and he was raking a tree, and then he dropped down behind me and then went into a cornfield, and then by that time it was dark out. So I tried.
That's good.
I put myself in the best possible stands with the information that I had, and I didn't get it done. So I guess the October lull does exist because I didn't kill a deer.
That's got to be it. It's encouraging though that at least you were seeing some action. Man, I'll tell you what, this has been maybe my slowest start to a whitetail season in recent memory. I still have not seen a shooter buck yet all year.
Yeah.
So that's hopefully going to change soon.
Yeah, but you've only hunted in Michigan, right?
In Montana.
In Montana, yeah. Okay. So
I'll take that back. I saw one shooter while I was in Montana, way off in the distance.
Okay. So obviously, in a way, this is still kind of early, and I think like I mentioned before, October 28th of last year was the first time I had any daylight pictures of a shooter on camera. So obviously, depending on where your camera's at, that's an indicator of when these big boys, the mature bucks, are going to be on their feet. However, man, I got a big buck on trail camera consistently right now, about 2 hours after sunset, after dark, coming through. So my thought is, and I'm talking about one particular trail camera, and I sent you the picture of him.
Oh, dude, he's not big. He's like big.
and he's a mainframe 8 with a split G2. That's all he is, right? But he's just gigantic.
Yeah.
Big old body on him. I mean, he's mature for sure. And I think that if everything goes like it did the past couple of years, like I have history with this area, and it's like I know what the bucks are going to be doing, and I think that this buck is going to start showing up in daylight hours somewhere between the November 1st and November 5th time frame. So I'm going to be in that area, hopefully towards the end of that area is when my vacation starts of that time frame. But the other thing is, I pulled another trail camera card before I went and hunted last night, and man, I got another, and nothing gigantic in the antler department, but what I think are 2 more 4-year-olds consistently on camera in daylight already.
Oh, man.
So yeah, and it's in a standing cornfield.
Can you get out there and hunt those guys sooner?
And this is where it sucks. I cannot hunt until, let me check my
all right,
calendar.
while you're doing that, this is just for the audience. This isn't for you. But I just want everyone listening to know that I can be held accountable to my obligations, because I did send Dan his babysitting check to guarantee him some hunting opportunities. So now I'm going to take your words from last weekend, Dan. I'm going to throw it back at you. No excuses.
Okay.
No excuses. You got to hunt these bucks.
Oh yeah, and I will. I'm going to. I just hope that between now and the next time that these bucks that I get down there to hunt, the corn in that area hasn't been picked, because I think that if that corn gets picked, then those deer are gone to a different farm.
Yeah. So when's the next hunt? This weekend or no?
No, this weekend is a wedding, yank. So the next time I will be able to hunt is November 3rd.
Oh, so it's basically that time from when you got to get after that other one.
Yeah. Yep. So, and you know, the first thing I do when I start my vacation every year is I pull cards on most of my, depending on if they're intrusive or not. I'm going to pull my cards. I'm going to look at them and see what's on there. I'm kind of hoping for a little more rain so that corn stays in that field just a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully by the time I check my other 2 cameras in the area where that big boy's coming through, the goal would hopefully to pop in there and then wait for a southwest wind, and that's when I think he likes to visit that area, is on a southwest wind.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to happen soon.
Yeah,
I mean, this is it. We're next week. Even right now, I think it's going to be pretty good in a lot of places with this cold front, and I think next week it's game time.
Right.
It's the
right.
Super
And then
Bowl.
Time to grind.
Yep. And your vacation, is that 3rd through the following Sunday? You got that whole week off and weekends, is that right?
Well, this is where it gets good for me. I have, let's see, I will start hunting November 3rd, and I took vacation all the way to November 24th, which is Thanksgiving. So I don't have to be back to work till November 27th.
Oh,
so
dude.
I technically have 3 weeks to hunt, but I think the wife said I can have 2 weeks this year.
That's good.
I know.
That's good.
So that should allow me to get after it and start the process that I like to do, and that's, hunt a buck until he stops showing up, and then move to another one.
Hopefully you just hunt that buck till he stops showing up because he's dead.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
As in you killed him. So
love it.
Let's make that happen, dude.
Yeah, dude. And it's almost like I look at my phone at night. I look at my phone even when I kind of wake up when I have to go feed my son, and I hit this little button on my phone, and it will show all the messages. And I'm just like waiting for you to text me, just like got him or something like that with a picture of a bloody arrow, and then I'll pee myself.
Man, I can't wait to send that text message, and then I'll pee myself. So, man, I don't know. I thought I'd see him tonight, but
here's what we need to do.
It's hunting, right?
Yeah. Here's what we need to do. We need to both kill. You kill Holyfield, and I'll kill a decent buck this year, and then we'll celebrate. The next time next time we see each other is at the ATA show.
Yeah. And
we'll celebrate with some brewskis.
I think that's a good plan. All right, man. Well, we're gonna have to shut this intro down because we need to give Tim a call. And I know you've got to bounce, so I'm gonna run solo from here on out. But let's plan on talking again next week and at least I'll have some good stories for you, and then you can tell me about your plan about your vacation, which will be starting that week, which I'm excited to hear all about. So let's toss it over real quick to Spencer to hear our Sitka story, and then we'll give Tim a call.
For this week's Sitka story, we're joined by Nick Kravitz, who tells us about a turkey hunt that ended at 2 yards.
So it was this spring, and I decided that I wanted to try to get my first turkey with a bow. And I'd already got one in Florida, one in Tennessee, and I was actually, it was, I believe, a Sunday, I'm not sure. But anyway, nonetheless, I went to New York, which is a neighboring state to me, where I'm currently living in Pennsylvania, and I went out there with the bow with my cousin Tanner, and right off the bat we heard birds gobbling off the roost, and we were actually running a little bit late. I had seen this bird fly down from like 125 yards, so I real quick set out my decoys right beside me about 10 yards away, and I kind of leaned up against a tree looking to this path that I thought for sure he was going to come up, and so I called a few times, and he was coming in every time I called, and I realized my face mask wasn't up. So I put it up, and I called one more time, and he was to the right of me, 10 yards, and this turkey walked right behind me at 2 yards, right into my decoys, and immediately as he put his head behind his tail fin and full strut, I just shot, and I got my first turkey with the bow, so it was pretty awesome.
On Nick's hunt, he was wearing Sitka's Equinox system. If you'd like to create a Sitka story of your own, or to learn more about Sitka's technical hunting apparel, visit sitkagear.com.
All right, now with us on the line is Tim Woods. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we were just talking a second ago before I started recording, walking through, just making sure I had all my information right as far as all the different things you are doing these days, because it sounds like you are just a very, very busy guy. All things related to whitetails too, so it's a good thing. But you got to be a little bit worn out with all these different things going on, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, towards the end of the year, I'm to the point where I'm ready to be done for a little bit, and then the fire gets going again, and once the snow starts to melt, and get the shed hunting a little bit, and then that fire gets blazing again, and you're right back after it. So, it does get a little redundant, every once in a while, but for the most part, it's a labor of love.
Yeah. At least everything you're involved in, it sounds like, is is closely related to our love of whitetails. And I briefly introduced you before we brought you on, but can you kind of walk us through a little bit of your background and what all the different things you're doing today?
Well, today I'm basically working for an outfitter here in West Central Ohio. We've got 4 counties that most of our properties are in: Logan, Champaign, Union, and Shelby counties are the kind of the counties that we focus on. And then we got we don't hunt every week like a lot of outfitters, or a lot of people may think we do. We're not. I guess it'd be less is more. Obviously when it comes to trying to kill big deer, we don't hunt a lot. We just hunt when the big deer are on their feet. And like I said, with Ohio, you got a 4-month-long deer season, but we might only hunt. I think we hunt like 9 total weeks out of the year with guys in camp. So we're not just it's not just like a puppy mill. We're just running guys in and out like crazy. So we're we have a lot invested in our properties, and we're trying to kill older class deer. So and the guys that hunt with us too, we've had the same guys for going on 10 years. So it's almost more like a club, really. The same guys year after year come and hunt with us. So it's not so much like outfitting. We look forward to seeing the guys again. After not seeing them for a whole year, and they come, and it's just like being at home. Here as far as the camp atmosphere, but I do the outfitting stuff, and then I've got some recovery dogs too, some bloodhound recovery dogs that I dabbled into a few years ago. Outfitting, you always have a deer that the way the hunter explains it, with the shot and everything, you're like, man, I know that deer's dead and I just can't find it. So I took it amongst myself and got a pup and trained it myself, and through the help of social media and some other guys that just off the tips and stuff that they did with their dogs in the past. And it turned out that I got lucky, really lucky with one of my dogs, and she's just she's phenomenal. Her name's Sis. She's 4 years old, and she's at like 92 recoveries right now. So she's
wow, she's
legit. She'd probably be really good if she didn't have to be tied to me. But here in Ohio, we have a leash law. They would consider it hunting with a dog if you didn't have them on a leash. So, we have to have a leash. And like I said, if she didn't have to be tied to me, she'd probably be that much better. But and then with Whitetail Edge, I'll just film it when I can. It's a show that I'm doing with Ben Rising. He really needs no introduction. Ben's he's a big deer killing machine. That's what he just eats, breathes, and sleeps it. The guy's that's just what he does. And I love it when he kills big deer. He works hard at it, so he deserves every big one that he kills. That's for sure. And I just trying to help him as far as the footage goes, and taking care of sponsors on that end, and raising 2 kids. My wife works full time. I've got a 13-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old boy, and they're into every sport possible. So we're a busy team over here in Ohio.
It sounds like it. And then are you still working with Whitetail Properties as well too?
Absolutely. Yep. Whitetail Properties. I'm a land specialist of Whitetail Properties here. I've got I've got a fairly big territory over here in West Central Ohio. I cover 9 counties. Just pretty much, if you just look on a map, like a county map, I go from like Morrow, Delaware, Union, Logan, Shelby, Champaign, Greene and Madison counties. I've got a fairly large territory over here that I'm covering, and there's some phenomenal deer, some really nice recreational type properties on this side of the state. That granted, this side of the state, the land's not cheap. Like they always say, they're not making any more of it, but there's some really, really good deer over here, some really good properties that are spitting out some monsters.
I've heard a lot of good things about that area. It's not quite as well known as maybe, just east of Columbus or maybe, down in the far south. But I keep on hearing good things about that West Central. I've been interested in trying to head out that way one of these days too. I've hunted south of you quite a bit. And speaking of that, Tim, I don't know if you remember this. You probably don't because you get so many calls. But you were actually involved in one of the most trying times of my deer hunting career a handful of years ago. I shot, at the time, was my largest buck ever. This would have been 2014, I guess it was, down in southern Ohio, and was not able to find him. So that next day, I was trying to find someone with a tracking dog, and you and me talked on the phone for a while. You had something going on. You couldn't actually help me out because of your obligations.
I think I remember. I think I had hunters in camp, and it was just so hard for me to get away. And Casey, the guy that I'm partners with the Bloodhound Deer Trackers, I remember him. He told me about it, and it was, you guys ended up finding that deer, didn't you not?
Well, we didn't find him until the following February, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
I had a different guy come down with his dog that day, and we tracked for a good long ways, but never could connect the dots. And then, the next February, maybe it was early March, late February, early March, we went back shed hunting and ended up finding him right in kind of the core of the property. And we'd walked by that area 1,000 times looking, and either we somehow missed him or he didn't come back till like the next day or something.
Sure.
But
and that happens a lot of times. If I can't remember where that was. That deer hit in the liver, intestine, or liver gut.
Yeah, I think it was intestines.
Yeah, especially with intestines. Sometimes it can take 36, 48 hours sometimes for them things to die. They can be sick for a long time and just walk around. And so could have been one of those scenarios. But that's a bad deal, and that's part of it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I remember that was a really big deer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad deal when that happens, but I just remember had a good phone call with you, and you were really helpful, at least walking through different thoughts on it and stuff. And
sure.
And one of these days, well, hopefully I'm not in need of a blood tracking dog, but if I ever do, I will try giving you a call again and see if it happens to work out. But I want to talk about blood tracking dogs. I want to talk about what you're doing with the outfitting side of things. Honestly, there's just a lot of different things I want to talk about. So I guess first I'm curious. I always feel like outfitters must have a really interesting perspective because of the fact that you're not just kind of hunting for yourself. In some way, you're involved with many, many other people's hunts, and you're hearing about how things are going probably, and you're kind of tracking and planning and things. I'm curious, I guess number one, how involved are you with that? I mean, are you actually helping individual guys out with where they're headed and everything, or is there somebody else on the team that does that? And then number two, if you are involved in that, what have you been seeing so far this year for your clients and your hunters?
Well, pretty much, if I'm not doing something with the real estate, with Whitetail Properties, I'm on the properties that we're outfitting on. I'm babysitting them. I'm taking care of them. I mean, when I say I'm on them, I'm not walking around on them. You know what I mean? I'm just maintaining them. Checking the cameras, planting the food plots, do all the stand prep and so forth. Pretty much everything from A to Z on the properties that we outfit on. And then, and basically when my guys come into camp, they roll into camp and, and I'm showing them pictures of deer, potential deer that are of age that we want to try and target while they're here. And obviously you're going to have some deer pop up, during the rut this time of year that, let's say a cornfield gets cut a half a mile away and all of a sudden that deer's in your timber. But a lot of times when the guys roll in camp, basically I take them right to the stands. Either I get them to the tacks in the morning and I slip them in there and get them in the set, or in the evenings a lot of times I drive them right to the stand, for hunting a field edge or something, just to eliminate foot traffic. But basically I'm the one that's killing the deer, so to speak. But those are the guys, they're just pulling the trigger on the deer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're coming. They don't live here. They're only when I tell guys when they come into camp, I said, you're not here for a long time. You're here for a good time. So and they trust us. You know what I mean? That's what they're paying for. We try to provide a good hunt, and try and do our best to put a mature animal in front of them in the 6 days that they're here.
That's gotta be a lot of fun. At least for me, like as much as I enjoy pulling the trigger and actually killing a deer that I've been after, I think I just love the chess match leading up to it even more. Just, thinking about where should I be, what's going on, what are these deer doing, what's the intel tell me, and you get to do that times I don't know how many different guys you're taking hunting. I mean, times 10, 15, 20, whatever it is. I mean, am I right? Is that just a blast for you?
No. I mean, you're spot on. I mean, absolutely. That's the fun part for me, and especially as I've evolved and starting to get my kids into hunting and stuff, and and doing this outfit thing, and even with Whitetail Properties, setting up farms and helping landowners and so forth. I get more enjoyment out of the process of planting the food plots and digging the water holes and setting up the cameras and manipulating a big mature deer to do what you want it to do in the daylight. For me, that's the ultimate. And it doesn't even have to be me that shoots a deer. I just know that if I had some influence on it, if I helped the person do it, or like if it's on one of our farms and and I planted a food plot that the deer got shot in, or I did a hinge cut that made the deer change their travel patterns and so forth, and and a guy shoots a deer that I get just as much reward out of it as they do when they shoot it.
Yeah, I bet. So how have things been going so far? Have you already had hunters in camp yet, or is that yet to happen?
We what we did here in Ohio comes in the last Saturday in September. We just do a small 4-man camp, and we were pretty successful. We were 2 for 4, and we had one deer get shot in the shoulder. So realistically, we should have been 75% with the 4 guys we had in camp.
Yeah, wow.
Killed 2 nice deer. They weren't. Both of them were 4-year-olds. Both of them were in that 150 class. They were nice deer. And actually, today is the way that typically what we do is we hunt from Monday to Saturday, because it just makes sense for a week. We do 6-day camps here. But last year we were looking at the calendar, and the way the calendar was going to fall, our first camp was kind of going to get robbed of some really good late October days. So what we did is we moved the camps back almost a half a week. So actually our first camp doesn't start till tomorrow morning.
Oh, wow.
As far as our rut camps, just the way the moon's going to, the moon's, is falling in the evenings right now. And, it just got a lot of deer up on their feet. And, we got lucky with this cold front come through, and, temperatures dropped 30-some degrees in the last few days. So this first camp should be rocking and rolling. Them big deer up on their feet, and they're checking.
Yeah, I would say so. That's what I've been looking forward to as well up here in Michigan. Can you tell me a little bit elaborate a little bit on what you said there about the moon? Why do you think that the moon is lined up pretty good for us in these coming days?
Yeah, especially in the evenings. I mean, granted, you're gonna have, with the cooler temperatures, in the morning, some deer are gonna be up on their feet, but a lot of guys, they pay attention to that moon, and it's getting pretty popular now with different TV shows and social media and stuff, just pounding away at the moon. And what I would try to explain to guys, like, if you're out in the evening and you're mowing your yard, or you're out doing chores or whatever in the evening, and you look up and you see the moon is setting, is on her way down, right? As the sun sets and you look up and you can see the moon, it's waxing, it's coming to full, and you can see that moon. It's falling when deer typically are feeding in the evenings. It's a pretty good time to be out it's just when the moon's overhead and you can see it in the evening, when that sun goes down, you should be in a tree stand.
Yep.
Especially right now, we've when you get a cold front like we've had, like I said the other day, it was 79 degrees, and today it's 49 degrees. And you got that, and it coincides with a falling moon. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Late October 25th, October 26th, you better be in a tree stand.
Yeah. So what kind of setups are you going to have your hunters on with these conditions? Are you already putting them in kind of your typical rut sets, or are you still hunting, more of those patterns that maybe that these bucks are still holding on to a little bit pre-rut?
Yeah. Basically, what I'll start doing, because I'll have, I think we've got 5 guys going out in the morning, and what we'll do probably in the morning is, we're not just going to smash in there deep in the timber. We're just going to kind of sit back and just kind of take the temperature and see how many bucks are on their feet in the morning, and go, and and see what happens. Maybe get some on some scrape lines or, in between some food plots, 'cause these bucks, this is the time of year they're going to start checking for that first doe to pop. But, I really like the evenings, the last few days of October. They've just been, periodically, they've just been better for us, throughout the years, in the evenings in October. It's just a testament to the food plots. We just congregate them does in these little kill plots, and a lot of guys are, they're planting these kill plots all over the country now. Just little 1/2 to 3/4 acre plots that just congregate the does before they end up out in the big destination fields. And that's, we've gotten really good at, parking these plots in the right spot where just kind of feeding these does forward. And these bucks know that, these does are going to be feeding in these little green plots before they head out into the grain field. So, and that's typically what we'll do this time of year, late October, first part of November, is we'll, hunt these does. Not so much hunting the bucks on their late summer patterns, kind of early fall patterns. And we're going to start keying in on some does and some doe bedding areas, and being in the food plots that the does like to be in, because these bucks are going to start checking them pretty hard now.
Do you have, speaking of the food plots, I know a lot of guys, this year, at least from what I've heard and seen a little bit myself, there's been a tremendous mast crop across a lot of the country, especially with white oaks. And people have been seeing the deer hitting those so hard that they're not getting the usual activity they might on their food plots. Is that something you've seen at all or anticipate at all happening?
Sure. And, some farms that, that we do have, heavy acorn crop on, deer, they obviously are not getting to the green plots or the destination plots till after dark. They're just staged up in there on them nuts, and, they just, they walk 10 feet and they got a full belly. They got to lay down and chew their cud. I mean, sometimes you get a wood that's just that full, it's like walking on marbles. But, and you got to, you take that into account too. I mean, if you're going into a wood that the deer aren't going to get to you in time, then you might have to press in just a little bit further and try and get in there where you need to be. But, yeah, no, I hate heavy acorn years because it just spreads the deer out so far, and they're all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that, every couple of years you got to deal with it.
Yep.
But luckily we've got a few farms that don't have an acorn tree on them, so that helps.
Yeah. Speaking of having to get in there a little ways or getting people in and off of these food plots and stuff, you mentioned that usually you're taking in your hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things I'm always curious about, because I've started getting a pickup. Sometimes when I'm hunting on the edge of the field, I've convinced my wife somehow to come out and drive out and pick me up in an ATV. Or I've kind of convinced myself that when I check my trail cameras in the middle of the day, it's safer to do with my ATV than just walking in there. Have you found the same kind of thing? Do you feel like we're not making as big of an impact when you're using a vehicle? And how much can you get away with when you're doing that?
Absolutely. I will not check a camera or set a camera unless I can drive to it on a four-wheeler or a side-by-side. I'm just a freak about putting my feet on deer dirt. And it's just something, I don't know if it's because I grew up hunting some high-pressure deer and wasn't able to get away with anything hunting those deer. So now I've just kind of, it's just kind of stuck with me as I've, grown up and matured into, chasing big, mature deer. But I think you can get away with a lot, especially, as long as they can hear the truck coming. They just think it's a piece of farm equipment. They've been around it their whole life. And the same with a four-wheeler or a tractor or whatever. They'll let you drive right by, but if you stop, if you see a deer and you stop in that vehicle or the four-wheeler or whatever, then they'll get up and leave. But as long as you keep the wheels moving, you're not going to bother them one bit. And that's what we do with outfitting. If guys, like I said, in the evenings, if guys are on field edges, I literally drive them right to the tree. I mean, I'll take the four-wheeler and I'll drive them right to the base of the tree. They step off the four-wheeler and they put the foot on the step and they climb up in the stand. So they're not walking around and, disturbing any of the deer dirt. I don't have to worry about a big mature doe that, tracks my hunter to the tree and now his hunt's ruined because that big slickhead done picked him out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
how many times, this is something like I'm always internally debating with myself. So I tell myself that yes, getting picked up from the tree after an evening hunt is going to have a lower impact on these deer. but is it no impact, or, after 3 or 4 times of that happening, do they start feeling negative in some way, changing their behavior? Do you think there's any kind of risk with them changing their behavior when you're doing that pickup, or could I keep on hunting and get picked up, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times and not see these deer change their patterns, assuming everything else is right, assuming I'm not, having these deer wind me, assuming I'm not doing crazy stuff?
Sure. And I typically, I'm a 2 or 3 set guy. I mean, even though we're outfitting, I've got 300 some sets. I typically don't sit a set more than 2 or 3 times, even throughout the whole year. So I may bump the deer one time, and I'm definitely not going to bump them again the next night. I just think that bumping them too many times, especially if you're going to do it back to back on consecutive evenings, that you really, your chances of getting that big deer out there in the daylight are slim to none.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he's with a hot doe or something, then he's going to go wherever she goes. But I think the later in the year you get, obviously, the more you're going to bump them, the less you're going to be able to get away with. Especially late season, if if you got 2 or 3 acres of standing corn or beans or something that you left, and you have somebody come in there with a piece of equipment or an ATV or 4-wheel or whatever, and bump the deer off it. I think you're probably going to be able to do that maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the late season. So I think your best bet is to try and get to a spot where the deer are kind of feeding past you. And I don't like, personally, I don't like sitting on the final destination feed field where the deer are going to be parked there for the night, and they're going to go lay over in the fence row, and they're going to chew their cud, and they're going to get up and feed some more. I don't like parking my guys in those spots if I'm going to be going in and out of those fields a lot. So, I guess every farm's different, and how it's laid out. Some people are, well, that's the only way I can go into the property is to go through this field to get to where I got to hunt them. And, some people that's just what you got to do. But I would say with those guys that are there, maybe not sit till where it's completely dark in the evening. And then when you get out, you got all those deer between you and your vehicle. Maybe if nothing's coming, or I've got like 5 minutes left and I haven't seen anything, well, take advantage of that 5 minutes and slip out as quiet as you can with no headlight and just book it to the truck,
mm-hmm.
and live to fight another day.
Yeah, definitely. What about, I don't know, any other tricks you have for getting good entry or exit? Because I think that, I'm sure this is something that's important to you, given what we've been talking about already.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Anything else that you're thinking about or doing on that front?
I'm big on ditches. I love ditches, because all them ditches typically are going to come out to a road somewhere. And a lot of my guys that are hunting with me, they know they're going to wear rubber boots, because I'm going to have them walking in water, and the stand it might only be, and the lazy way to get to the stand is only 75 yards, but my guys might have to walk 200 yards to get to the tree stand because they're walking down the ditch, and typically, unless the deer's drinking out of the ditch, they're not going to spend a whole lot of time in it as far as, looking for the scent, smelling the scent and stuff. That's why I'm big on not walking on deer dirt. So, like in the mornings, a lot of my stuff, our access and stuff, guys are walking in the ditches. I'm not walking on what I call deer dirt. I'm not walking on the leaves. I'm not disturbing the ground. We're not rubbing up against anything that a deer might smell. We're walking in the ditches. And a lot of my stands are in spots that, they're relatively close to ditches, whether it be a ditch funnel or just up the bank off a ditch, and just areas where deer might not get behind us, and a deer's not going to cut our track.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm big on ditches as far as getting in and out of farms, and a lot of people are. It's just common sense. To me, it's just something that you should do. If you utilize the ditch to get in and out of your properties, you need to do it.
Yeah. Do you ever have to go in there and like clear them out with a chainsaw or something, or are these things usually pretty open? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a once a year process where, once you get the initial ditch open and clear, and you get the falling down trees and the log jams and stuff. Once you get all those initially open, then the next year it's just a breeze. You just walk through it and you get, the little things are in the way, and you make sure you can still see your taxes. That way you can get in and out of there. And, just like I said, the first year it's going to be a pain in the butt. You're going to probably have to have a chainsaw to cut some root balls up, or, or just washouts and, big log jams. But it's going to be worth it, in the long run to go through it and do that work.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So speaking of things like ditches, terrain features, are you using any features, any type of terrain or topography feature to actually help you get these guys on deer, choosing stand locations? It sounds like you're using it to get in and out of hunts, but are you also finding ways that these things funnel deer movement at all?
Sure, absolutely. Here where we're at, here in Logan County, where the majority of our properties are, we've got a little bit of terrain feature here. We look a lot like southern Iowa, really. And I use, if I get in the timber, I use, just narrow points on ridges. I'm not so much hunting the wide open flat. I'm going to hunt the narrowest part of that, that ridge. So, that way, if, the ridge itself is kind of funneling the deer down to a, kind of an hourglass shape. And ditch funnels, where, what I'm talking about when I say ditch funnel, right?
I've heard a couple different things, but I've heard some people like the head of a ditch.
It's at the head of a ditch, because it's kind of going uphill, and it's basically just a deep washout, and in the side of the woods, and it goes up, and once it gets to the top of the hill, it stops, and it's just flat right there. And I utilize those a lot. I'm like I said, back to walking the ditch all the way up in there with the wind in your face, and you just pop up, and as soon as you get to the flat spot, you hope there's a really good tree there, because it's because that's what I call a ditch funnel, because it just makes a narrow point in the terrain where the deer are going to come around that, and they just naturally come around that flat spot on the hill.
Yeah.
So and in the evenings, I've noticed too on some of our farms where we might have a 60, 70 acre field, and you're like, man, the deer can pop out anywhere. It seems like a lot of our bigger deer like to pop out on the highest spot in that field, so they can see the whole field as soon as they step out into it. They're not going to pop out, even, and I've sat back and glassed them, and I'm like, all right, the wind is not in this deer's favor for him to pop out right in the middle of this field, but they do it anyway. I don't know if they just let their guard down a little bit because they want to be able to visually see the whole field when they step out into it, so they know which way to go, or, if they want to see, if they're just looking for does or what. But I know a few of our farms where, it's just stick a fork in them, they're going to step out on that high spot every single year.
Interesting. Speaking of that kind of question, I find myself in a similar situation sometimes where you're trying to anticipate, I think a buck's going to come out in this general region, but then you start wondering, okay, how do you find the spot within the spot?
Sure.
What about how a deer may or may not use wind to choose where it's headed or where it beds? Is that something you pay attention to and have kind of come to some conclusions?
Sure, absolutely. Especially when hunting for myself, if I'm trying to hunt a particular deer, I try to put myself, okay, if I'm a deer and, I know I'm being hunted, how am I gonna go about my day when my nose is my number one sense? So how am I, I'm not just going to barge right into my bedroom with the wind at my back. I'm going to circle my bedroom. I'm going to kind of J-hook my bedroom, get downwind of it. I'm going to scent check it, and then I'll come in there and I'll bed down. Same thing with, as far as, going to a food source. I'm going to come out on the upwind side of that, the downwind side of that food source, to the best of my ability, whether, terrain wise or whatever. And, I'm not going to pop out, I'm going to pop out where that wind's in my face. I can scent check which way I'm walking, as far as to get to that food. And, I'm going to smell anything, any kind of danger, anything that's in that, before I get to that food source, so I don't get shot. To me, that's what I'm thinking when I'm a big deer. And, and I think that helps me, as far as trying to figure out how a big deer is going to work a food source, how he's going to smell, he's going to scent check some does and never even have to step out into food source. Sometimes a lot of my really good sets are maybe 40, 50 yards just in the timber, where the deer's he's scent checking this, a cornfield or a bean field or a food plot. And he never even really has to step out in it because he's just scent checking it and he's just moving along to the next one. And, I've had a lot of luck, shooting some big deer, just off of food sources that way with some of my clients.
Mm-hmm. That's always the tough thing, though, I feel like, is you're setting up when the deer is trying to move through there using the wind to his advantage. So somehow you need to be able to get there, but maintain some ability to be just outside of his advantage, right? It's like cutting that corner.
Yes,
that seems to be the trick.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is getting your wind to blow in a spot where it's not educating any deer, and it's good for him and it's good for you. That's what, I think that separates the men from the boys when it comes to killing big deer.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to find that right tree, the killing tree.
Yeah. How much do you worry about scent control? Are you one of the scent control, are you religious about scent control, or are you religious about just always playing the wind and you don't worry about the other stuff as much, or both?
I'm both. I'm a both on that. I'm a scent freak. Honestly, I'll be honest with you, Mark. I have not taken what I call a stinky shower in probably 10 years. I have used
Old Spice, huh?
No, negative on the Old Spice. I have used the Scent-Away soap for the last 10 years, 365 days a year.
That's amazing.
My wife's even on board. Yeah, we all are, even in my daily clothes, even the kids. I mean, we just wash it all together. We use the free and clear laundry detergent. There's no Tide or none of the stinky stuff goes on none of our clothes, none of our towels. It just kind of what we've done for the last 10 years probably. And I say 10 years, it may be longer now, but yeah, I'm a scent freak, and I do anything, with all the technology and stuff, with all the ozone machines and the scent crusher, and if you have the financial means to use that stuff and to buy that stuff, I would. I've got a scent crusher bag. Anytime I go to the woods with my wife or my kids or myself, I scent crush all my stuff for 30 minutes before I go. And, and I'm a freak about it, and I will not, even when it comes to checking cameras, I check the wind before I go check a camera. If the wind's not good, then I just don't check that camera. Even on the 10,000 acres that we have, I've got some cameras that I haven't been able to check for a while now because the wind's not right. So I'm not going to go. I'm just a scent freak about everything when it comes to the wind, because that's how the deer they survive. That's the number one scent is the wind. And if you tip them off or give them a reason to smell any more than they have to, you're in trouble.
All right. Well, good stuff here from Tim so far, but let's take a moment here to hear from our partners at Whitetail Properties, and then we'll get right back to this conversation with Tim Woods.
This week with Whitetail Properties, we are joined by Billy O'Connor, a land specialist out of Kansas. And Billy is going to be telling us about what to consider when buying a property with a friend.
Buying a property with a friend is a great idea. It helps you get more land for less, and it also helps with the cost and investment of time that you kind of need for improvements. Plus, it's just fun to kind of share in the experience of owning land with someone who is passionate about the outdoors as you are. But you do need to think through kind of the process a little bit to make sure that you kind of cover all scenarios kind of going down the road. When buying with a friend, you first want to talk through ideally what each partner wants out of the experience. Is this for an investment? Is it to raise mature whitetail by letting them get to a certain age class? Is it a place you want to bring friends and family to hunt as well? Assuming you both want to manage for deer, usually friends have the same goal and approach to management, but often one person will want to hunt other things such as quail and small game, and the other partner may not necessarily want to do that. So you kind of want to talk all that through. If you are an out-of-state buyer, you do need to keep in mind that the state of Kansas, you're allowed one landowner tag per 80 acres. So if you both want landowner tags, you need to make sure the property is 160 acres or more. I'd suggest you buy the property under an LLC. That way, everything can kind of be explained in the bylaws in the event that something does come up down the road where you guys do need to split it or sell it, things such as a divorce or someone has more kids than they anticipated and or a death in the family and someone needs to sell. Those type of things, you can kind of go over and get that out of the way from the get-go.
If you'd like to learn more and to see the properties that Billy currently has listed for sale, visit whitetailproperties.com/O'Connor. That's OCONNOR.
Yeah, I hear you. I think
Yep.
I do many of the same things you're mentioning there. So what about this situation? This is one of those scenarios I always struggle with, and I just had it last night actually. You go in, you get set up, things are looking great. You get towards the end of the evening, let's say though, and your wind shifts in some way or it swirls in a bit, and you realize, oh crap, now not everything's ruined, but now I do know that this section that I'd really wish my wind wasn't going to be blown into, it's now blown in there. Do you say, well, it is what it is, hopefully something will come out from the other 2/3, or do you bail immediately, regardless of the fact that it's the last hour or whatever?
Me personally, I would bail. That's just how I am. But I can look at it as a guy that hey, I work 6 days a week. My only time I get to hunt it's on Sundays. If that was my only time that I got to hunt, I would stay.
Yeah.
And just hope for the best. But me personally, granted, I've been blessed that I don't have to punch a time clock. I can if I have a good evening and I don't have hunters in camp, I can go hunt. But me personally, I would bail. I would, and I actually did. I had a guy come in early. He come in a day early because he's got to leave a day early. And he was sitting last night. And when I took him in there, the wind was west-southwest. And it was predicted for the hour by hour, it was going to go west-southwest, and it was going to go due west. And about the last 45 minutes, he texted me. He said, Tim, it's like dead south. These does busting me. And I texted him back. I said, is anything in the field? He said, no. I said, get down and walk to where I dropped you off. Granted, I didn't want the foot traffic, but he was 45 minutes away. And I didn't want to take the chance in that next 45 minutes of our wind blowing right down through the middle of this where all these deer were going to be popping out.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a give and take. I just told him, I said, just get down and walk 50 yards off the edge of the field because the whole edge of this field is just loaded with scrapes. I said, walk 50 yards off the edge of the timber and walk to where I dropped you off. And he did, he's like, that was a good move, because the wind was just wrong. And there's no sense, like I said, for me personally, I just cannot sit in a tree stand with the wind being wrong. It just like, it's like kissing your sister. You know what I mean? It's just not right.
Yeah. I hear you. Speaking of your client in that example, he heard what you had to say or the text and he had it right out. I'm curious. You had a lot of different hunters come in through the years. Is there anything you've found that separates the people that end up filling a tag versus those that don't? I don't know. Do you see any consistencies? And I realize this is unique because I'm asking specifically about.
I do, and it's the guy that rolls into camp and wants to have a good time. And he doesn't care where you put him. If I told the guy, hey, I'm going to take you over here at Walmart and I'm going to put you in a telephone pole in a Walmart parking lot. And if he would be okay with that, those are the guys that kill. Honest to fact, Mark. I mean,
interesting.
The guys that come in here and they, oh man, I got to kill and this and that. Those are the ones that have a terrible week.
Huh.
It's the guys that come in here and have a great attitude about it. They're here. They paid for their hunt. They're just happy to be here. They don't have to be at work. They're not at the office or whatever it is that they do on a daily basis. They're just here to have a good time for 6 days. And those are the guys that typically kill a good deer.
So do you think that's just because that attitude then translates into the field in some way? So the guy that's happy to be there is optimistic and is paying attention the whole time he's out there in the woods because he's just excited about it, and then that just results in him being a little bit more ready for the opportunity versus maybe the guy who's stressing out too much and he gets negative and then he's out in the tree and he's convinced himself, oh, it's not going to happen, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah, that, and the guys that are just happy to be here, you can put them in a tree anywhere and they will sit daylight to dark. The guys that have to kill, they'll text you every half hour, every 45 minutes. What's everybody seeing? What are the deer doing? Are they moving? Do you think I should sit here? What time you think should I move? What's for lunch? Should I come in? What's your thoughts? Those are the texts that I get throughout the day. Communicate with my hunters. And the guys that you don't hear from, I'll check in with some guys that I haven't heard from in a while. It's been a few hours, just make sure everything's good. And I'll text them. You seen anything? Nope, haven't seen nothing. You good? Yep, I'm good. See you at dark. Those are the guys that kill. But the guy, like I said, the guy that, what'd you see? Oh, I had the bucks are chasing all over the place. I haven't had a shot opportunity. Why won't they stop and give me a shot? I don't understand. Those are the guys that don't kill.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what?
And like I said, they just won't. You just got to trust the outfitter. And you're paying them for them to do a job. And if they tell you need to sit in that stand, sit in that stand.
Yeah, let them do the job, right?
Yep, let them do their job. Don't guide the guys.
Yeah. So let's flip that question then to the other side. So I know you hang out with guys like Ben Rising and a lot of other people, Joel Snow, I think, a lot of other folks that are very successful, mature buck hunters just doing it themselves. What do you see as the consistent factors that link those types of people, the very best DIY hunters that you know?
They live in the areas where there are big deer.
Yeah.
They live in the areas, because they're not everywhere. And that's, I moved here from Northeast Ohio. I was born and raised in a little town called West Farmington. And, growing up, we had some good deer. And then it just becomes so populated, and everybody and their brother hunted, which was good for the sport. But our age structure, went to put, and our deer numbers were, they were gone. Because there were just too many of us out there, we were just, harvesting too many deer. So I ended up moving down here, and, and everything that I learned from up there, I brought it down here, and, I started killing 170s, where up home you're killing a 125 or a 130, that's a good deer. But, like I said, then I moved down here to where there actually are big deer, and I started killing big deer.
Yeah. But even
so if you don't have it, you can't kill it.
Very true. Which is the root of all my problems here in Michigan, I think. But
I'll sell you a farm down here. You're not that far away.
Don't tempt me, because I'm constantly thinking about it. But even where you're at, or even where Ben's at, there's guys that aren't killing 170-inch bucks. They're going out there every year and they shoot a 110-inch buck if they're lucky. There's some people that just aren't able to close the deal on these big mature bucks, even if they are out there. What makes you or Ben different?
We pay attention to the details, and don't skip any detail. Cross your T's and dot your I's. And when you do get a chance at a big deer, you got to capitalize on it, because you might not get another one for the rest of the year. As far as what makes us different, I don't know. I mean, I put my pants on the same way everybody else does. I haven't been in the woods enough with somebody that doesn't know what they're doing for them to say, oh, well, why, I would never think to do that, and so forth. I don't know, what sets us apart. I don't really think I'm any different than anybody else. I just, live in an area where there are big deer, and Ben lives in an area where there's big deer. He's got access to some good ground, as do I. And it's, I really don't think I'm any different than anybody else. Maybe we just work a little bit harder than the average guy.
Yeah. And I think there's something to what you said there about that attention to detail. That's always one of those things with everybody I talk to. Every one of these people we have on the podcast that's very successful, that's definitely a common trait. It's not cutting corners, paying attention to every little thing. That is a core consistent principle to almost every successful deer hunter I've talked to. So It's always interesting to hear, though.
You got to pay attention to the details. You can't be lazy. You get out of it what you put into it. And if you want to halfway do something, you're going to get halfway results.
Yeah. So let's talk about something that every deer hunter right now is thinking about, which is the rut, which is knocking. We're knocking on the door of the rut right now. It's coming for a lot of us. I think, if you read a magazine these days, or if you listen to a podcast, or if you watch TV shows, you have been just hammered over the head with the basics of how to hunt the rut, right? I mean, I think most deer hunters know pinch points, funnels, be where the does are.
Sure.
Is there anything above and beyond that, though, that you think leads to hunt success during the rut? Or is there anything that you have your clients do, or put your clients in anything in some unique fashion during the rut that helps you guys be successful?
I think for us is just paying attention to the deer, and don't try not to overthink it too much. You can have the best situation and the best scenario and somehow just screw it up. I mean, like with us, we scout a lot from the roads. We do a lot of glassing, run a lot of cameras, and just pay attention to the deer. And put the pieces of the puzzle together. Okay, you got a picture of this deer here. Is he bedding here, or is he, in between? What's he doing? Don't just say, "Oh, I got a picture of this deer in this food plot. I need to set this food plot." Well, the pig, you might have got a nighttime picture. He's obviously on his feet somewhere. And with the rut coming, the deer can be on their feet in the daylight now. This is the time of year that everybody's saving their vacation for. The next, from now till Thanksgiving, a lot of guys are going to be in the woods. Just pay attention to the deer. If you're not seeing what you want to see, maybe you're obviously not where you need to be. And every farm's different. And that's the unique thing about land and farms and stuff, that they're all a little bit different. They all got their little quirks about them that make them good or make them bad. I guess nothing really. We just don't overthink it too much, and play the wind. Number one thing, let the wind dictate where you're going to be. Because if you try and split the hairs with the wind on these deer, you're going to lose 99% of the time. And that's with us. We try not to overthink it too much, and just play the wind.
What could you maybe elaborate for us a bit on what kinds of spots you specifically are having people hunt this time of year? So I know that wind's going to dictate how you would pick a certain place.
Sure.
But could you maybe lay out in detail maybe an example of a spot?
Like right now, I'm going to try and be between bed or feed and bed. Like if I'm going in the morning, I'm going to try and have an access to where I'm not walking through or I'm not entering where I want to hunt by going through a destination feed field, because I don't want to domino the deer back. I don't want to shove the deer back to where I want to try and catch them in between bed to feed. Make sense?
Yeah.
Or feed to bed. So I'm going to try and have kind of a side door entrance or a back door entrance where I can slip somebody in and be between where the deer are feeding and where they want to go to bed. Whether it be on an oak flat or an oak ridge or a funnel, or a ditch funnel where I'm catching the deer naturally traveling back to bed in the mornings. And then this time of year, like about the next week in the evenings, if I don't have guys that are willing to sit all day, I'll typically move them to a funnel or somewhere close to a food plot or an oak flat or something in the evenings, catching the deer before they head out into the big fields and kind of get scattered. Once a big deer gets out in a big field and it starts running does around, it's really tough to get a deer locked in. We will utilize decoys too. This time of year they're just walking around the road. So calling at a deer, it's fun to do, especially to see them react to it. and come in posturing at a decoy, and you can stick one in the side. And when it comes to a decoy, it's pretty fun to do.
Yeah. What's your typical decoy setup look like?
For us, it'd be it's kind of backed off of an area, because where we're at here, a lot of our farms, we have high deer numbers. We have lots of does, and does hate decoys. So typically, a typical decoy set for us, if you can imagine, say you got a perfectly square food plot, and it's an 8-acre food plot, and a lot of the deer like to come out in this, say the southwest corner of the food plot. Lots of deer come out right there. Well, I'm not going to set up right there with the decoy right on top of the does. I'm going to set up on the far northeast corner of that food plot, with the west wind or a southwest wind or a south wind. That way, when the does come out, they can see that decoy from a little ways away, and they'll tolerate it over there. And and then if a buck comes out where the does come out, and he sees the decoy, and you give him a grunt a couple times or a snort wheeze and so forth, and he can't take it anymore, he's going to march across that field to you. I guess that would be a typical decoy set for us, which is kind of off of the deer movement, so to speak, and the deer sign. It's just not, really, it's not smashed in on the typical inside corner, that where a lot of deer would pile out. I'm not gonna move in there on that inside corner and put the decoy 20 yards away. That way, as soon as these does pop out, they're freaking out and they're blowing and stomping all over the place. I'm gonna give them a little bit of room to feed.
Yep, that makes sense. Now, do you usually like using a buck decoy or a doe decoy, or what situation would you use either or?
This time of year, I would just use a buck decoy. Because they're, even on a lot of the cameras and stuff that I'm checking, I've had a lot of cameras on scrapes, and if you get multiple bucks in these pictures, they're all postured up at each other. So they're getting to the point where they're not liking each other like they did a couple weeks ago. So I like using a buck decoy. I've had a lot more success over a buck decoy. And I guess once you get later in the year, you could do the doe decoy as well with the buck decoy. And then even later into November, you can just use a doe by itself. But I haven't, personally, as far as guiding, I've never had much luck with just a doe decoy. I know a lot of guys that have killed some deer over just a doe decoy, but my guys have a lot more fun, and we've had a lot more success with just the buck decoy.
Yep. I feel like I've seen or heard the same thing too. Now here's something that just popped into my mind that's totally kind of a 180 from the rut, but you mentioned your scrapes on your trail cameras on your scrapes and what you're seeing there.
Mm-hmm.
It got me thinking, you must check so many trail cameras, over 10,000 acres. I cannot imagine how many cameras you run, how much you see. So I got two questions for you. Number one, I'd like to understand, how you're using these cameras. Is it just to get inventory, or is it actually helping you hunt in some way? I'd love to understand that. I guess answer me that, and then I'll throw my part two at you, I guess.
Yeah, this time of year, we've got a lot of crops coming off. Corn's starting to come off, and typically a lot, once our corn comes off, we recruit a lot of deer, and recruit a lot of older deer, a lot of the bigger deer. For some reason, our big deer just love being out in that corn by themselves in the summertime. And once their home gets taken away, they come back to us. And it's typically the same bucks on the same farms year after year. We have history with these deer, and and I put cameras on the scrapes, and that way I know they're back home. And it lets me know, are they, on this food plot, or they come to this food plot in the evenings. And then I can, I can go, okay, now, just from what I know in the past, the deer's probably bedded here. He's coming to this food plot, this direction. And then I can kind of key in on that particular deer with my guys, and try to pull the rug out from underneath them that way. But as far as numbers of cameras, I couldn't even tell you how many cameras I have. I know I checked probably 25 today.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's just pulling into a farm, and I'd say I've got 3 cameras on this farm. And I got the wind right, and I'll just take the quad and I'll just buzz around. And I'll check, swap the cards out in these cameras. I'll come back to the truck, pop them in the laptop, and and click through them and see if I can get any, most recent information of what's happening on that farm. Now that I got some guys rolling in the camp.
Mm-hmm. So then that kind of ties in nicely to what my next question was, which is, given how many cameras you're looking through, and like the vast amount of data that you're looking through every year, year after year after year, have you learned anything like big trends that you've seen because you've looked at so many pictures? I mean, have you found any like big picture patterns? Like, yes, like I've seen every year that X happens, or this factor always gets the buck on their feet. All right, is there anything you've identified by way of looking through all these pictures over the years, and maybe even talking to hunters about their experiences year after year after year? Have you gotten any big picture learnings in some kind of fashion like that?
I guess it's something that we've all known, is that it's all about the weather, those temperatures. I mean, you could, like we've had, it was almost in the 80s for a few days ago, and the cameras were a little slow. When I clicked through those dates, things were slow. Deer just weren't moving. And then, you get a 20-degree temperature drop, and it's like a light switch went off. You're like, well, where'd all these deer come from? And it's just this time of year, we want the rut to happen so bad. We've been waiting on it all year long. We've been checking our cameras, and we're getting pictures of these big deer, and we can't wait for the rut to get here. And it's all about the temperatures. If the temperatures are warm, we're still going to have a rut, but it's just going to be at night. So if you got cold temperatures, then you're going to see the activity when you're sitting in a tree stand or your ground blind or whatever. So that's the biggest thing that I can take away, that no matter what we do, the rut is going to be pretty much the same time every year. And if the temperatures are cold, we're going to see it. We're going to, guys are going to get to see it. They're going to get to see the chasing and the bucks fighting and stuff like that. But if it's warm, everything's going to happen at night.
What do you do during the rut when you do have those warm temperatures? How do you make the best of that situation?
We're sitting on water holes, strategically placed water holes for guys when the temperatures are hot. And you just do your best. You try and stay positive. And that's one thing you can't control, and that's, and it doesn't matter with anything in life, I guess, control the controllable. And one thing we cannot control is the weather.
Yeah, that's the truth.
When things are tough, you just, you just say, man, it's hunting, it's not life or death. It's just hunting. Could be worse.
That's true. Could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So what else, when it comes to the rut, whether it be your guys coming into camp or anybody else, we've talked a little bit about the right places to be. We've talked a little bit about how to handle the conditions, talked a little about decoying. What else does someone need to be doing to have a successful hunt during the rut, or should be thinking about, or whatever?
Pay attention to the deer. Like I said, if you're not seeing what you want to see or what you think you should be seeing, you're doing something wrong. You need to move. You need to either get a little bit more aggressive, or maybe you got too aggressive. Maybe you need to back out. Maybe you smashed in it a little bit too far. Pay attention to the details. If you're running cameras, this time of year, you got to check those cameras a lot, because you might be coming up on it. The next 3 or 4 days, some of these bigger deer are going to get locked down. And if you're hunting one of those big deer and he gets locked down, and you could be in for a long rut. So, I'd say if I was, I haven't got to hunt the rut in so long, but I get to hunt it vicariously through our guys. But, I guess it's for me, I would just pay attention to what the deer are doing. And like I said, if you slip in and you hunt a morning and you're expecting to see good movement and you don't, well, you did something wrong. Something happened there, where you didn't play your cards right, or you weren't paying attention to what you should have been paying attention to, and learn from it. Just because you don't see nothing doesn't mean you can't learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the big lessons I learned, was just like, never assume that what happened just happened by chance. Like there's always a why. There's always a reason why
Sure.
something happened. So I'm constantly trying to force myself to ask that question and try to answer. So I didn't see any deer tonight. Well, why? Why did that happen? Or
Sure.
maybe I did see a mature buck crossing this little ditch over in this such and such area. Well, why did he cross there? Why was he heading that direction? I feel like if you take everything that you observe and experience in the whitetail woods and apply the question of why to it, you by default become a better deer hunter, I think, by asking and trying to answer those questions, maybe.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. No stone unturned.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You can never learn enough about these. I get, guys, friends and stuff will text me and, they'll call me and be like, well, why did this deer do this? And I'm like, dude, as soon as you figure it out, let me know.
Yeah.
You let me know. As soon as you figure out why that deer would do that, on this night when it's 85 degrees and he's standing in the scrape at 11 o'clock in the middle of the day, and you're texting me why and sending me the picture, and I'm like, I have no idea why he would be doing that. Is there a doe popped in there, or did somebody bump him and he just took a walk? Or is he actually a deer that will get up and walk in the middle of the day when it's 85 degrees? As soon as you figure about these critters.
Yeah, they are wild animals, that's for sure. They're always going to keep
absolutely.
us on our toes. So what about?
They're just so fascinating.
Oh yeah. I've yet to tire of them. That's for sure. So let's say we're hunting the rut. We've done all these things. We've kept a positive attitude. We've been hunting hard. We've been focusing on does and pinch points and et cetera, et cetera. We're paying attention, and everything worked out, and we got a shot. We hit a deer.
Yep.
I've got, I guess, two situations I want to lay out here. One would be we have a deer that I guess, okay, let's say this. We hit a deer. Is there anything that you've learned, given how many deer trails you've been on with all the tracking you do with your bloodhounds? Is there anything you've learned from tracking with a hound that has helped you become a better blood tracker just, on without a dog, or that you could tell someone that could help them when they're tracking without a dog? I guess that's my first question.
Typically, if you make a moral hit on a deer, they're straight lining. Whether it be, say you get a high entry and no exit, it's going to be a little bit before you get a little bit of blood. But typically those deer are straight lining, they're on a mission. They're going somewhere, and they're going there straight and in a hurry. That would be, as far as with the dogs, a lot of times, if I drop Sis in on a track and she takes a good line and she starts going, in that one direction, she's going straight, then, I know typically, we're locked in, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So that'd be the biggest thing that I've taken away with the hounds. A lot of times, if you didn't have a hound, you would be kind of zigzagging around trying to find blood and so forth. And, a lot of times if you'll just get on that trail and you'll take that trail that deer was on that you shot and just walk it out a little bit, eventually you'll probably pick up some sign. You'll pick up some blood, or, see a track where the deer was running and so forth. So these deer, when they're hit, mortally hit, they're straight lining.
Interesting. So I guess maybe let's take a step back. Maybe I got ahead of myself there. What's your basic process without a dog, let's just say right now, because we'll talk about dogs in a second, but for okay. You, pre-dog, or for someone who doesn't have a dog, how would you recommend, or how do you personally go through the moments after you see the arrow hit a deer? Take me through the process from that moment all the way, through a hypothetical track job, how you're doing it, what you're looking for, how long you would wait, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. Most hunters know, as soon as they let that arrow go, or, whatever they're shooting at a deer, they know, their first instinct is, oh, I smoked him, or, oh man, that was a bad shot. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So typically that right there lets you know, do I need to give this deer some time? Or, can I wait, do I wait 45 minutes or an hour, and get down and go look? And with the dogs and doing this outfit thing, being that I'm not there with the guy, say I don't have the dogs. We're going to run through the scenario, not having a dog. Say you shoot the deer, you feel like you made a great shot. The deer runs off. You don't hear it fall down. You didn't see it fall down, but you just heard it. It's just hauling the mail. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait a while. I'm going to get down. I'm going to go inspect the arrow. I'm going to see what kind of blood I got. See if it's good lung blood, arterial blood, or is it dark gritty? Is it dark blood? Is it does it have any gut matter on it? Where did I hit the deer? And for the most part, a lot of these guys are they're pretty well educated anymore as far as archery hunting. Most of the guys know about where they hit the deer. And you can that arrow's going to tell you a lot. And then for me, I would wait. I'm an 8-hour guy, and unless you see the deer fall over, you see the, deer runs 100 yards, you hear it fall over, you see it fall over, then get down and go get your deer by all means. But if you made you think, you're pretty sure you made a good shot, but maybe it got liver or maybe it didn't. Well, then at least wait 8 hours before you do anything. Before you start tracking, before you go in there and start, even if you went 50 yards, that might be 50 yards too far and you bump the deer and it's gone. You worked all year for that shot, and then you're going to screw it up by not being patient enough. So that's the biggest thing that I've actually had to learn, as far as, and that's what the dogs have taught me, as well. It's just be patient. If it's dead now, it'll be dead later. The last thing you want to do is bump the deer. And, once you bump the deer, your chances of finding there are that much, they were good before, but now they're really bad now because you bump the deer. He might even be off your property. He might run a country mile before he beds down again. Who knows? But, I'm an 8-hour guy, to be honest with you, Mark. If one of my guys shoots a deer in the morning, I'm not, say he shoots at 8 o'clock, I'm not going in there till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If he shoots it at night, then I'm just going to wait till the next morning. Then we'll go in there in the daylight and see what we got to work with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, have you found there to be any, you mentioned one thing already, that being that lots of times a mortally hit deer is going to just beeline it somewhere. Have you found there to be any other patterns to a deer? There's these commonly held beliefs, I can name a couple, like people say that a mortally wounded buck won't run uphill, or lots of times a mortally wounded or gut shot deer, he'll head to water. Have you found any of those things to be true or anything else?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, a lot, and I've had scenarios where hunters, they know it's a gut shot deer and they call me and I go there with the dogs, say 24 hours later, we give the deer ample time. And they say, okay, there's a pond down here, there's a creek down here, it's got water in it, that's probably where he went. And I'll drop Sis in on it and we'll start going that way. And all of a sudden Sis turns and she goes uphill, down a deep ravine and up a ravine and all this and that. And then we find the deer 180 degrees away from the pond, So, a lot of times you can throw that theory out the window. I don't know why. Why wouldn't it, because when a deer gets shot in the gut, they get septic, they get a fever, and they want to go to water to cool off. And that's where a lot of people find them, whether they're liver hit, gut shot, and shot in the intestine, whatever. For the most part, you're going to find them in the water because that's where they want to be. That's what they're trying their dangest to get to that water so they can cool off because they have fever. But as far as the rule of thumb, for the most part, if you do shoot a deer in the guts and you do not have a dog, and you can't track it, so you have no blood, I would definitely be walking the ditches or looking in nearby ponds for sure.
Okay. Now what about in a situation with a dog? When should somebody call a dog? I guess maybe that's the better question. Well, should I call someone right away if I've got a shot that I don't feel is ideal?
Yeah, as soon as you make the shot, I mean, anybody that's archery hunting, there's a lot of us out there that have recovery dogs anymore. We're pretty easy to find on social media, whatever state you're hunting in. And just have it in your phone. Even if you don't call them, just put it in your phone, deer tracker guy or bloodhound guy. And if you make a shot, as soon as you get back to the truck and man, that's not a good shot, call the tracker. All of us we want to help you find the deer, whether we can get to you or not. We want to help you find the deer. So call the tracker. We're going to kind of give you an interview process. We're going to ask you how high you were, ground blind, so forth, quartering to, quartering away. We're going to run you through the gauntlet of questions, and that's going to help you, play back the whole scenario in your mind. The tracker is going to be able to say, okay, well, I think you hit him here, or here, and so forth. They're going to tell you whether you should go, whether you should wait, whether they can come and help you, whether they can, maybe get a buddy that lives closer to you, that has a dog, refer you to somebody else that can track for them. But that would be the first thing I would say, that if you made a marginal shot, try and get a hold of somebody with a dog. They don't even have to live in your own state. I mean, I bet I can vouch for a lot of the guys that have dogs that, we just want to help people find their deer. So if you can get a hold of anybody to run the process through them, let them help you start the process, and hopefully, and if you can get a dog out there, great. But not all trackers are, for the most part, nobody's doing it full time tracking. So a lot of the guys have day jobs, or working in the evenings or afternoons or whatever. So finding somebody that's got the time to drop everything they're doing and bring their dog is hard. But but if you can get a dog there, more power to you. That's the best thing to do, is let the dog run the track first before you go in there with your buddies and start grid searching around and try and you're just walking all over the track, and you're disturbing the area where the deers ran. And now then you bring the dog in and drop the dog down. Now the dog's tracking your buddies. It's trying to track where the deer was, and you've stepped on blood and didn't know it, or you stepped on some vials, gut matter, and didn't know it, and you're tracking it, you're carrying it with your feet, and you're going the wrong direction. There's a lot of things that can go wrong when you come in there and you start grid searching with buddies or start blood trailing with buddies, and then all of a sudden you want to back out and you want to call the dog. So call the dog first. Take that route, if at all possible, before you go in there with your buddies and start tracking.
Yeah, this got me thinking about another situation, and this could be whether you have a dog or not. I guess I'm curious about what the right answer is. Let's say you shoot a deer, and then you got rain that's coming in soon afterwards, and maybe the shot's kind of marginal, but maybe it's kind of one of those in-betweener shots, but rain's coming in. What do you do then? Do you push it because you want to do you go in sooner than usual because you want to make sure you have some kind of blood? Or do you say, all right, I'm just going to assume there's not going to be any blood, so I want to make sure he at least doesn't get pushed farther away so that I have a better chance when I am just kind of body searching the next day? How do you approach that situation?
Now that I've got the dogs, before I had the dogs, I would have went in and looked, because that's the way we blood trail. Is with our eyes. We need to be able to see which way the deer went. So before I had the hounds, I probably would have chanced it and went in there before the rain, and hopefully recovered the deer. But now that I have the dogs, providing you don't get a monsoon and it just a big gully washer, actually a little bit of moisture and rain is good for the dogs. It actually holds that scent tighter and holds that scent right there where it needs to be. So a little bit of rain on the blood and on the track itself is not bad for a dog. If that makes sense to you, because it kind of just it just holds the scent right there. As far as say it's dry, when you shoot the deer and then it starts raining, it's like a sponge. It just holds it right there where it needs to be, versus the scent just kind of blowing all over the place and back and forth. And, what a wounded deer gives off is that interdigital scent gland, in their hooves. When it's shot and it's mortally hit, it's giving off that scent. That waxy deposit is what it's giving off, and that's what canines and predators and stuff. That's how they track the deer that are wounded. And that's the same thing that we train our dogs on. It's not so much blood; it's that waxy deposit that a dead deer gives off. Out of their interdigital scent gland in their hooves.
Yeah. Speaking of understanding, how you're training your dog, anything you could recommend to someone out there who has an interest in getting their own tracking dog, maybe a resource or organizations or anything like that, or where should people go to start learning about how to do this?
There's a lot of stuff on the internet. I would say get books. John Genie, I've got numerous books that he's written on recovering, deer recovery. And Casey Morgan, the guy that I'm partners with Bloodhound Deer Trackers, he's a wealth of knowledge himself. I mean, he kind of started himself on it and learned through trial and error. Did a lot of stuff wrong, and then he did a lot of stuff right, and he ended up getting a bloodhound. He started out with some other breeds and ended up with a bloodhound. And, and he's had nothing but success, using the bigger dogs. I would say figure out what you want out of the dog. If you're looking to get into it, are you going to use it just for yourself and maybe a couple buddies, or are you actually going to, provide a service for the local hunters in your area? And figure out what kind of dog is it, is this going to be a full-fledged working dog, or is this dog going to sleep on the couch with me? And, maybe every once in a while we're going to track a little bit. I guess, figure out, what kind of dog you want. There's some great breeds out there. A lot of guys are using Slovakian Kopos. That's a great breed. Bloodhounds are great breeds. They're a little bit bigger dog. Wire-haired dachshunds and short-haired dachshunds. A lot of guys recover hundreds of deer a year with, using those small dogs. I have 2 bloodhounds. I've got about an 85-pound red female and about a 65-pound black and tan female. And, that's just a dog I like for the terrain that I'm in over here. We got a lot of deep ditches and, they just work better for me here, in this hilly country over here. So, and some of the flat ground, some of the other stuff where some people are, maybe you don't want to, need a long-legged dog. But as far as breeders, I don't, I was fortunate enough where, Casey got me my first pup, and I did a little bit of legwork on my own to find the next pup, just through social media. If you want to find the dog, to recover deer, you'll find one. They're out there. Go and put your hands on the pups and see the kind of environment that the dogs are in, and see where their parents come from, see what their parents are doing, or the grandparents of them. See what kind of bloodline they are. Are they working dogs, or are they show dogs, or you definitely want to stick with the working line of dogs. That's the thing. The bloodhounds, they've kind of got a bad rap, lately with, being more of a show dog versus a working line. And, and we're trying to reverse that a little bit. We haven't bred any of our working dogs yet, but, that's something that, we're probably going to do here in the future, and hopefully, put out some, good working bloodhounds.
I'll tell you what, it really does. Every time I talk to anyone who has a dog like this and is able to do this kind of thing, it really is intriguing. It gets tempting. It's got to be really nice just to have that tool in your toolbox whenever the situation arises.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Sis is my older dog, and she's made us look like rock stars. To be honest with you, some of the deer that she's recovered for us over the years. I'll tell guys, they're like, oh man, we got to go in there and try and recover that deer. It's going to rain in the morning. And I'll tell them, nope, don't worry about it. If the rain's not going to bother the dog, and knock on wood, You know, we go 250, 300 yards, and Sis is standing over the deer, and you know, she makes us look like a rock star. But it's a lot of work, you know, especially in the early, you know, the adolescent years of having a pup. You know, it's about repetition, and you got to get out there and you got to work them. You know, like I said earlier, you know, if you want, you know, full-time results, you can't put in part-time work. And you know, with Sis, I had I did her first 2 years was just, you know, a lot of work. She did a lot of work in the harness, and you know, and it was a learning process for me too, as far as learning how to read her, you know, when she was locked in, and learning how to read her when she was, you know, out to lunch, so to speak, and not doing what she was supposed to do. But now that she's 4 years old, you know, I do some artificial tracks with her in the off season, you know, just to keep the drive there. You know, we do play a lot of games, tug of war and so forth like that, you know, with deer hides and deer hooves and stuff. And but now it's you know, when I pull that harness out now, and when I put my bibs on, she knows it's time to go to work, and you know, she knows what time it is.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I like that phrase you had there, that you shouldn't expect full-time results if you're only putting in part-time work. And I feel like that's a pretty good thing to keep in mind, even just as a deer hunter, right?
Sure.
You shouldn't be out there expecting the world if you're only putting in part-time work. So that's a good thing for all of us to keep in mind, especially in the off season when we get back to work, as far as preparing our hunting properties. But we're in the midst of it right now, and we're kind of reaping what we've sowed. Hopefully we've all already put in the work, and hopefully we're just enjoying the benefits of it now. But I guess, you know, we got to wrap things up, Tim. But if you could leave if you could leave our listeners with any final reminder or word of wisdom or piece of advice as we're heading into this, you know, this is kind of like the Super Bowl of all of our whitetail seasons, right? Coming into the rut.
Sure.
A lot of people, like, all of your goals and hopes and dreams for the hunting season might be riding on the next couple weeks. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet, Tim, that you think we need to make sure to touch on?
You know, I think we covered a lot. You know, and one thing is, you know, envy. I don't know, or greedy. You know, some guys are, you know, you see it all the time, you know, on social media. Just because somebody killed a big deer, that doesn't mean they're a bad person. You know, maybe they did all the work in the off season. You know, maybe they did all the work that you wish you would have did, and that's why you're mad at that person, because they did what you should have did, and you're mad because they killed the big deer. And don't smash, you know, other hunters just because they're successful. Be happy for them. You know, it makes you feel better as a person when you're happy for somebody, you know, that was successful. You know, we're all in this together, to grow our sport, to make it better than it was before we come into it. And, you know, and that's my ultimate goal. And that should be all of our, you know, goals, you know, as sportsmen, you know, as outdoorsmen, is to leave it better than we found it. And, you know, take your kids hunting, have fun with your kids. Don't make it so serious with your kids when you do get a chance to take them out, and be safe. You know, obviously, everybody wear a harness. You know, you got responsibilities at home. You know, don't be selfish and climb up in a tree stand without a harness on.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to see all the different things, if people want to connect with you, whether it be on the Whitetail Properties side, or see your videos with the Whitetail Edge, or book a hunt, or learn more about it, where can they go online to find all this stuff, Tim?
You can go to whitetailproperties.com, and you can click on the agents, and Tim Woods will pop up. Click on there. My contact information is on there. My email address, my cell phone number. My cell phone number is 937-844-1502. You know, I typically answer it to, you know, even for numbers that I don't know, just because I'm in the, you know, real estate business. And, you know, I'll talk to anybody about anything. You know, if you want to get a hold of me, there's ways. People find out how to get a hold of me. I'm not that hard to find.
All right. Very good. And then I guess I'm assuming then that's a good number to reach you at if there's someone that needs some blood tracking too, huh?
Sure. Yep. And, keep in mind that, this, it's hard for me to get, I do get a lot of calls, and I can tell you that things are really starting to heat up, because I've got, I've gotten probably, I think it's 5 calls in the last 2 days for deer recovery. So things are getting right. Yep. That's the number to reach me at, or you can text me, talk about your deer hit, talk about selling your piece of property, talk about anything.
Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed getting to talk to you here tonight, Tim, and I appreciate you making the time to have this conversation right here in the busy part of the season. So thank you for that, Tim.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mark. I had fun.
Absolutely. Well, I wish you luck in your future hunts, and for all your hunters coming into camp here soon. And man, let's stay in touch.
10-4. We'll do, bud.
And that is a wrap. So before we go, though, big thank you to our partners at Sitka Gear, Yeti Coolers, Matthews Archery, Maven Optics, the Whitetail Institute of North America, Trophy Ridge, and Huntera Maps. And finally, of course, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to listen to this episode, to listen to our Rut Radio episodes that come out each week as well. Man, really appreciate you guys being a part of this community. And if you're hitting out the woods, if you're going out soon, if you're hunting, which I certainly hope you are because things are getting good, wishing you all the best of luck. Hope you have a great hunt. Hope you have a safe hunt. And until next time, stay wired to hunt.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.